This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com. Next up, we got Bubba Ray Dudley and Devon Dudley. They're going to pick up a win over the Sandman and Tommy Dreamer after 10 minutes and 15 seconds with a double team power bomb on Dreamer through a flaming table. The Sandman's entrance is the most notable thing on the entire show. And it's a shame that the WWE Network won't let you enjoy it the way it was intended. And what I'm talking about, of course, is WWE manages to license Enter Sandman from Metallica. And of course, back in the day, ECW was a bit of a renegade and they were playing music without paying licensing fees. That was not going to happen on the WWE watch. So they licensed it for a one-time use. But the pay-per-view feed of this show, if you can find it somewhere on the underground internet, it is unlike anything else I've ever seen. And I know what you're going to say, Bruce. And then the bell rang. But the actual entrance of Sandman, that's what fans paid to see, right? It was almost like the Ultimate Warrior running to the ring and shaking the ropes. This was the ECW version of that, drinking a beer, smoking a cigarette, singing along with the crowd. It's like, almost like a cool concert vibe, is it not?
Yeah, it was a great entrance. I mean, it was one of those moments that it was a great entrance. No doubt about it. Ultimate Warrior had a great entrance too.
We should mention that, we've got some of the ladies involved here. Elektra is, going to get beer poured all over her breasts and, Roll Tide and all that. Then of course, we've also got Beulah McGillicuddy and Francine getting involved. We have to see a cat fight. Here's your spot for it. That's ECW. And then of course, Spike Dudley makes an appearance to light a table on fire before the Dudleys slam Dreamer through the table. And, Wade would write, it was the spectacle it needed to be to live up to the expectations. And he gives it 3.25 stars. Pretty cool that Vince was able to, be convinced to pay the rights for Enter Sandman. Most of us listening to this have never had to do a licensing deal like that. How much do you think a one-time use on a pay-per-view would cost for a song from Metallica, if you had to guess?
I have absolutely no idea, but I do know that it was also kind of a favor deal as well, and for one-time use on the pay-per-view. So that entered into it. And, I don't think it was as much as you would expect.
We should also mention this is going to be the Dudleys' last match in the WWE for over 10 years until they come back in 2015. After the match, Sandman is a stumbling drunk mess and he's asking for a beer. The glass breaks and the man with the answer, Steve Austin, comes to the ring to a huge pop. And Austin said something like, I've seen you drink. You don't need a can of beer. You need a case of beer. And he calls out the entire ECW locker room for a beer bash before sharing beers with everyone. And then he even calls out the WWE crew to partake in a fight. And the WWE guys slowly make their way to the ring with Bischoff sitting in on commentary. And before the two sides mix it up, Taz makes his first appearance of the night to choke out Kurt Angle. And a brawl ensues with the ECW guys eventually clearing the ring of this WWE contingent. And Austin calls for Bischoff to take his obligatory ECW beatdown. Foley drags Bischoff to the ring where he takes a 3D, a flying headbutt, a 619, and a stunner for good measure. And the Dudleys haul Bischoff out of the arena into a flatbed truck outside, as Joey Styles says, "This is the greatest night of my professional career." And then the beer bash is had in the ring with Austin and Sandman sharing a beer. And, the show closes with Austin and Sandman standing atop the ECW entrance ramp with their arms raised. And it's a cool little finish to the show. The, Steve Austin beer bash. I don't think a lot of people would have called a Steve Austin appearance here, right?
Yeah, but it was exactly what it needed. And I think Steve being out there, it kind of brought everything together, and then you get your big brawl.
Wade would write, Austin got caught up in the atmosphere in the building and had a great time. He was described as cordial, gracious, and even humble by backstage observers. He was hanging out with wrestlers all afternoon. Austin even confessed that he believed drinking a beer with Sandman did as much for him as it did for Sandman. Mikey Whipwreck asked Austin before the show if he minded if he did the whippersnapper, which is basically a Stone Cold Stunner off the second rope. And Austin said he was cool with that, admitting that he copied the move from Mikey in the first place. So of course he could do it. Quote, Steve was so cool about everything, said one ECW wrestler to Wade. We should also mention that in Steve's only singles match in ECW, he lost to Mikey Whipwreck by pinfall back when Mikey was the ECW world champion in 95. So it's fun to see that sort of come full circle. Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.